Okay, this is a little video. I've never done one of these, but there is a video that shows how to replace the belt on a Husqvarna 800 all-wheel drive. This is an HU700 all-wheel drive. It's very similar, but there was a couple of things that I just wanted to add that the other guys didn't, and it was kind of a trial and error thing for me. So the first thing is this cover that goes on the front. Of course, it fits over your pulley for the belt, and right through here is the two slots that these pins go on. Okay, and when you take them out from below, you just spread them apart and then shove them up. But before you do that, then you have to loosen these two bolts. There's a bolt hole right here and right here, and that's the hole. Okay, and of course I got my bolts in a pan so I don't lose them, but anyway, you just put that. Now what I did notice was this whole area right in here was covered with grass. That's just packed in there, just a layer of grass where it comes up through here. So that's something, you know, if you're a maintenance guy, you may want to look at that, and maybe every now and then. You can also try to get your hose up in there and spray it out occasionally. Now the next thing is the cover underneath the mower itself. Of course, you're going to have to take the blade off, and I probably could use a new blade, but I'll sharpen that one up. But the blade comes off, and I think that's got it marked on here, a 14mm bolt. These are all different size bolts. I think those up in there were 11s, and these were like 13s, or these were 11 and those were 13s, but you just have to try your sockets. This cover here goes this way. Yeah, that's it. This way right here. Okay, so this comes off. There's a couple of tabs right here, if you can see them. That's a couple of tabs that comes off. There's one bolt right there. Okay, and that actually mounts onto this extra piece right here. Right there. Okay. So anyway, you just take that off. I cleaned it up. My dad was a very good shade tree mechanic, and he always cleaned his parts, so I've cleaned this up. It was all covered with grease. These are where the three pulleys fit, and I just took those off just because it was going to be easier to get the belt off. You have to take them off almost to get the belt off. So those just kind of fit right back in there once I get them on. I took them off and cleaned them up. That's something you might want to also consider doing. And then the belt comes out and it loops around underneath this one, goes out. I took a picture of this on my iPhone so that I can look at it again whenever I'm feeding it back. And then this belt, I've already got it on there, and I'll give you the tips on getting that. And then this comes out, goes down around, kind of makes a smiley face, and then comes up around and goes out to the pulley. There's enough slack so that when you do put it back on this top pulley, that you can just pull it over and snap it over. Now this is a section that I wanted to show you about that wasn't really clear on the other videos. They talked about how it was a little hard to get it out, get the belt out and get the other one in without taking this whole I guess they call this the transmission off, and I didn't want to get into that. That was going to be a big job. Take that axle out and drop everything down. That's major. So I listened to what one of the guys said, and he just kind of pried it off. But as you can see, hopefully, there's a little metal guide that keeps the belt from hopping off. Okay, and there's one on each side. So what I did with the old belt, if I can get it in there. Okay. So what I did with the old belt was I turned this belt, and you got to keep it in the pulley, in the belly of the pulley, and then I turned it up so that it was thin-wise right there. And then what I did is I held that with my left hand, and I've got the camera with my right hand, so I can't do it right now, but I reached in with my right hand and I pulled this as I forced this pulley to go back between the pulley and the guide. And it takes a little bit of force, but it actually rolled off easier than the new one rolled on. When I put the new one back on, of course I dropped it down around there, and I had to use a screwdriver to kind of push it back in there. This side's a little closer than that side, but once you get the pulley back in there, then you've got it made. All you have to do is put everything back together. Okay, we're ready to put the belts back on with the pulleys. Let me get the light on here, and so we're going to start with this pulley right here, which is this one down here. Inside the pulley. Start. Okay, in a second we'll do the same thing. Now I cleaned these up in here. They had a lot of grease on them, and I'm not sure if that's a sealed bearing or not, but I put a little bit of lithium grease, I think it was. So we're coming around the pulley there. And hopefully this is pretty visible from the video. Let's get it back in here where it's supposed to be. Then of course we'll tighten these down. And then the last one, we've got to fit this through here. So it'll go up to the other pulley. And the last one is right on the top. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I took a picture of my old belt before I took it off, so I'll make sure that it looks the same when it goes back on. Okay, get that one snug down. Okay, so what I found out is when I tried to roll this belt over the pulley right here, with all three of the pulleys in underneath the body intact, there wasn't enough slack to get it to roll over. So I took the top pulley off, and so that should be pretty easy to push back down and get that. I figured that would be the easiest one to do. So we're going to put this over this, and there's a little pin right over here, post, that acts as a guard to keep the belt from coming off. You can see it right there. Okay. So I don't know if I can roll this with one hand or not. Oh yeah. and then we're just going to pull it by that pin. It's snapped down into the groove. Okay, now we're ready to pull this down. We've already put it up on the pulley up there on the front drive. We're ready to pop this down. And it goes right in pretty easily. So that's a little trick of the trade that a small engine guy would know who works on these every day, but I don't do that. So trial and error, but hopefully it'll help somebody else along the line. Okay, we're getting ready to put the cover back on. We got the belt in. I went in here and cleaned this spring up, and this is where the you can see it or not, there's a little wire there. That's what engages it. When you lift this, that wire on your handle, you pull that, and that lifts the wire up. That engages the belt. So I cleaned that up and put some grease on it, lithium grease, just to try to keep it from rusting, make it work a little bit better. And then our cover is going to go back on. Now there's two holes right here, and that one and that one correspond. So we've got our slots that go over those tabs right there. There we go. And then this bolt right here, I think it was an odd. Okay, so this bolt here is a 13 millimeter. I'll get it started, and then we'll tighten that back up. Okay, and our cover from underneath, it covers over the pulleys and the belt. Two screws that come in from the top. Okay, and then we'll snug those down. Okay, so we're getting ready to put our cover back on. There are two tabs underneath that'll go in those two holes right there. And then there's a hole there and a hole there that will fit in there, and those are the bolts. Hard to do this with one hand. Okay, so I'm gonna, there it is, it popped down. Okay, so the hole is right there, and the other one is right there. So we're gonna put this bolt right up in there. That's a 10 millimeter. And we'll put the other one in, snug them up, and the cover will be back on. You can see the tabs popped over the two little slots in there. Okay. And those two little bolts, this one right, well, let's get my light back on. This one right here, this one right here, and right up in there. They go into plastic, so just snug them up, don't torque them down. Okay, now we're just going to cover the maintenance on the wheels, the drive wheels. 14 millimeter socket. Just a nut on there, And I don't know if there's a, no, there's not a washer on there. So you got your nut, so you're just going to pull that wheel assembly off. Okay, now on the back, on the rear one, there's a large, there's a large washer. So you see all the gunk that's in there around that? Okay. Of course, you need grease on these. These are gears, so you need grease on them. So you've got a big washer and a little washer right there. Okay, and then this is the actual drive gear itself, and you can see that it's got a lot of dirt and grease on it, and we'll clean that up. Okay, so I've cleaned up my gear fairly well, the drive gear here, and I'm also cleaned up the gear inside the wheel. Okay, so we're going to put some grease on that. I just used some wheel bearing grease and put a little bit on the entire drive there. We're going to put some this is the axle, the shaft that the wheel actually spins on, turns on, so we're going to put some grease on that, and then we'll go to my dad always liked a lot of grease, so I do the same thing. Probably not good to do both of them, but I put a little bit on both of them, keep them from rusting. So we put a little bit of grease on the drive gears here, put some grease on the shaft where the wheel is going to go, and then if you can tell that there's a little O-ring, it's like a rubber O-ring that goes there. Then this guard, it's a plastic guard. It's a nice addition. It keeps the grass from coming in on the inside of the wheel and getting in here and clogging up the drive. And then your large washer is going to drop on to the guard. Then your wheel just slides back down there, engages with the gears on the drive. Then you're going to put the bolt back on, snug it up, and you've got your maintenance done. Another thing that I didn't do, but I will, is I'm going to grease this wheel adjustment. It pulls up with a spring-loaded release, and it's nice to grease that. It kind of keeps it easy to move. So you can do that for every wheel. They're all the same. This is what it looks like when you first take it off, with dirt on the gears. Clean it up, grease it up, put it back, and it should run well for you. This is my 4th year on this mower, and it's done a really good job for me.